To take is a mistake. It's one of chess's most overlooked but powerful ideas. And today you'll learn how one rule can add 100 points to your chess rating. We're gonna go over this game and I will ask you this question 10 times. To take or not to take? Please try to think about it by yourself first, and after that we'll discuss it together. And hopefully it will help you to clarify this rule. Alright? And also it will be like a little challenge for you. And after that, please let me know in the comments below what was your score out of 10 questions. And this is the very first one. Should black capture this pawn on d4 or not? You may think about this yourself. And in this case, the answer is pretty straightforward. Black should. And the answer is they should do this because it's pretty much forced. If not, white would capture this pawn on e5 themselves, or maybe white would push the pawn forward and chase away this knight from c6. Black doesn't want either of that. And in this context, this trade on d4 is basically forced for black, and therefore black should do this. Indeed, otherwise they're going to lose something. Now the same question for white. Question number 2. Should white take right here on d4 or not? Again, this time it's relatively easy. You should because you win material, you gain a pawn. Well, I mean, you don't win because it was an exchange, but anyway, in this particular moment, you gain something. And that is another good idea that guides you into the idea that yes, you should grab something. If you can win something, do it. To take as a mistake applies more for exchanges, not for the situation when you can just win something for free. All right, coming in is our question number 3. Should black take here on d4 or not? Now, I hope that you said no, because that is a very classical example of the illustration of that rule to take as a mistake. Think about this. The move is not forced at all, right? This knight on c6 is not hanging, even though white is putting pressure down here, but black defends it very, very well, right? Therefore, black is not at a risk of losing this knight. And it is the first criteria. If you see that a move is not forced, that exchange is not forced, very often it's better not to play that move yourself. Secondly, as you can see, after black captures on d4, it allows white to advance his queen forward. And that is why to take is usually a mistake, because it only helps your opponent to activate his pieces, to move them forward, to start putting pressure on your position, which was not the case before. Classic illustration of take is a mistake. Black should not take right here on d4. But now black is also at the crossroad. They can't develop this bishop because it needs to guard this pawn. They can't easily develop a knight because white will push a pawn and kick it back. Therefore, black plays queen to f6, offering yet another exchange. Black is really persistent here. Should white take or not? You can think about that for a second. So far we talked about 2 criteria that help you to figure out whether to make this exchange or not. One of them was whether a move is forced or not. And in this case, white is forced to do something. Their queen on d4 is hanging, therefore white definitely needs to do something about that. However, there was also the second criteria, whether my move helps my opponent to move his pieces forward, therefore making them more active. And the move queen takes f6 definitely fails this test. It does help black to develop his knight, to attack our pawn, but fundamentally just to move his knight forward, which you did with your own move. You played a move to develop black's knight. And if you're a white player, it doesn't make any sense. But then, what should white play, because their queen is hanging? Well, there are many ways to go about this. You can push this pawn forward to e5 and attack the queen. That's one of good ways. The other way to go about this is to say, hey, you know what? I'm gonna arrange this exchange on my terms. Instead of taking here and helping you to develop your knight, I'm gonna defend my queen. And now you're gonna help me. You take here, I activate my bishop, good for me. That was the other way to go about this, another good move. And finally, the move that was played in the game, queen c4, where white retreats the queen, but also attacks this pawn on c7, and there is no comfortable way for black to defend it. And black decided to, you know what, I'm gonna insist on the same trade, queen c6. And that is the next question to you. Should white take here on c6 or not? This time it's a little trickier because there are a number of factors that come into play. Now, if white captures on c6, it does not help black to activate his pieces. However, it still helps black in a way to activate his bishop, because after the trade, the bishop is now active. And you may argue that white achieved these double pawns, which are like a positional drawback of black's position. And while it's true, these pawns are not particularly weak. You know, if you imagine this pawn to be somewhere there, then all these pawns on the queen side would indeed be very weak. White would be able to attack them and capture them, because black's pawns would not defend each other. But if they stand like this, then all these pawns support each other. There are no weaknesses. You cannot easily attack them anyway. And therefore, it's a subtle drawback of the position, but not a major one. But the fact that his bishop is now more active, and you support his development, is more important. Pieces are stronger than pawns, and therefore, helping your opponent to activate his pieces to make them more powerful is certainly a big disadvantage for you, and you should avoid that. On top of all that, you can also apply the previous filter we discussed, by asking yourself, is this even a forced move or not? Do I need to do anything? And in this case, your queen on c4 is already protected. Therefore, you don't have to react at all. You can just adhere to your own plan, and for now, white still needs to continue his development, and knight c3 is a great move. Alright. Now, in this case, black actually captured on c4, which is classical mistake to take as a mistake. Black achieves nothing, and white is developing his bishop. Black goes bishop b4 now, developing a bishop. White plays bishop d2 to neutralize the pin. And let's think about this position. Should black take here on c3 or not? By the way, if you're thinking, come on, Igor, it's obvious, I'm glad that you think so, because throughout this game, I'm showing you very common moves of black. Most of these moves are, in fact, most commonly played, including the move bishop takes c3, which is yet another example of to take as a mistake. Black achieves nothing, they trade off their developed bishop, and they also help white to put his bishop forward, to start putting pressure. And in general, you can see that black has been very consistent in achieving nothing throughout this game. Black played knight to f6 to develop a knight, also to cover that pawn, and to potentially threaten this pawn on e4. And that is another question for you. Should white take here on f6 or not? You may think about this. And once again, I love this because we have these slightly different angles to the same rule, so that it's easier for you to understand how it works in different contexts. All right. I understand that it might be tempting to think this knight attacks my pawn, I don't want him to capture it, and therefore it looks like the easiest solution to just trade it off. However, that would be again falling into that common mistake to take as a mistake. Now, here the other thing is you should avoid junk pieces, just like you avoid junk food, right? So if you compare these two pieces and ask yourself which one is more powerful, right, your bishop or this knight. In general, a bishop is a little bit stronger than a knight, especially in open positions where a bishop controls a lot of diagonals. It's usually much more active than a knight. And now your bishop is attacking. This knight has just played one move, doesn't really do anything in this game. And certainly trading this active great bishop for this lousy knight is a disadvantage for you. And again, you may argue that you're trading off like a knight and also ruining his pawn structure. It is good for you that you ruined his pawn structure, but again, just caring about activity of your pieces is more important, because pieces are more powerful than pawns, much more powerful, and that is why caring about them is your primary goal. All right, now, and what if you worry about black capturing this pawn on e4? Well, there are a lot of answers to this question. First off, it's not the end of the line really, because if the knight moves, you can go ahead and capture that pawn on g7. You're not even losing the pawn. And even if you worry about this pawn, you can push it forward, attack the knight, or you can play this f3 move and defend it, or in the game white simply castled. Which raises the other question. Should black take this pawn on e4 or not? Please think about this. I understand this move seems really tempting. Black grabs a pawn, attacks this bishop, attacks this pawn on f2, and from there it can even fork these two rooks. Really tempting. But it's like using that zero interest credit card. Looks really good at first, but very often the payback still comes after a while. And here knight takes e4 is just a blunder, because before playing this move, black should have asked himself, can my opponent attack me? This is what I call an anti-blunder check, where you just ask yourself this question. Can my opponent play an attacking move after I play the move that I intend to play? And in this case, rook e1 pins the knight and just wins it. Because it is pinned, it cannot move away, otherwise white can attack it or grab it straight away. And after black castled, white is just now winning the knight. Nevertheless, the game continues. Black plays c6, aiming for the central advancement, and white shuts it down with rook to d6. A very smart move. Black tries to expand on the queen side now, attacking the bishop, but white is once again playing a nice counter-attacking move, rook g4, this time threatening black's king. Black needs to defend his position and plays g6, And this is another question for you to take as a mistake. This one is more complicated. It is for more advanced players. Feel free to pause the video if you need to. And I won't give you much hints besides the fact that if you make the right decision right here, you can win the game. Also, don't forget to let me know your score. Out of 10 questions, how many could you solve correctly? I'm curious to know. And in this case, the answer is yes, you should take, because you're not just taking a pawn, you're taking his soul with this rook sacrifice. This pawn is pinned, it can't capture it like this, therefore this capture is forced, but now you've got rook h4, the subtle rook lift, and because your bishops are so monstrous, your opponent is totally paralyzed, he can't do anything. He can of course capture one of them, but he'll still be checkmating. To take as a mistake does not apply to taking souls. If you can crush your opponent and take his soul, then go for it, do it, why not? And if you want to do this even more effectively, I've put together a special bundle, Boost Your Elo to 2000, that contains everything that you need to get yourself to that level. Check this out if you're interested. And remember, if you're thinking of reaching for those French fries after watching this video, be careful, take as a mistake.